Hi everybody, my name is Suleyat Lawal. My class is ISA 4220, which is Server System Security for Spring 2020. The topic for today is under the admin recommendation for operating system and firewalls. So I hope you guys have fun and listening to it. Please enjoy. By definition, what is system hardening? System hardening is the collection of tools, techniques, and best practice using the reduction of vulnerability in technology applications, system infrastructure, and firmware and other areas. The main reason why we do system hardening is to reduce the risks by removing potential threats, vectors, and condensing the system attack surface. Another reason why we do system hardening is to provide attackers and malware fewer opportunities to gain a foothold within the IT ecosystem. So basically, the main reason why we tend to use hardening for our system is just to prevent threats. So this particular procedure give us steps to take in order for us to be able to prevent attackers, hackers from being able to get into our system. All right, there are different types of system hardening activities. We have the application hardening, the operating system hardening, the server hardening, database hardening, and network hardening. So for this particular topic that we'll be discussing, we'll be looking into the operating system hardening and the server hardening. So the benefit of system hardening. So basically, like I've mentioned before, like the goals, it actually help in enhanced system functionality, meaning that the fewer the program with less functionality, the less risk of operational issues. So basically, the fewer functionality you have with your operating system or any type of system in general, the less operational issues that is likely to occur. Another benefit is that it improves security significantly, meaning that by reducing the attack surface, we are actually able to reduce data breach, system hacking, and unauthorized access into our operating system in general. Another thing is that it simplifies compliance and auditability, meaning that if you can simplify the way in which if you can condense everything we have and simplify it, it makes it easier for audits to occur and for us to be able to see anywhere there is errors or anywhere in which the trend in which attackers are using to get into our system so that we can be able to fix it. All right. So now we need to talk about what is operating system. By definition, operating system, as we all know it, is the most important program used in running a computer. It is also used in managing computers' memory and processes, as well as software and hardware used by computers. It actually also makes it easier for individuals to also communicate with our computers, which is the command words that we use in our Linux, our command system here, also in Windows. And now, the next thing we're going to look at is the main components of operating system. We have the central operating processing unit, the memory, and the storage. Storage stores all our information. Memory is what retrieve whatever information we have from storage, and the central processing unit, I believe, is what actually makes the work and makes everything happen. Next, type of operating system. We have our desktop, which when using desktop, we use our Microsoft Word, our Mac, and our Linux. For Linux, we use either the Ubuntu, the Red Hat, or the CentOS. So for the CentOS, is I actually use it for majority of my classes. So yes, I know little about it. So and the next one is our mobile iOS, which is Android and Apple iOS. For Android, we're talking about Nokia phone, Samsung phone, LG phone, things like that. They use Windows. And for our Apple product, which they use is the Mac OS kind of, but we call it iOS. Next, we need to define what it is to harden operating system. Hardening of operating system is the process of securing, updating the system while creating rules, policies to help govern the system in a more secure manner. Operating system hardening tips. So we can harden our operating system by program cleaning, which is the updates that occur every now and then, use of system patches and patch management, group policies, meaning that okay, with group policies, this is what goes in, this is what's based on the certain rules, and this is what goes out based on this particular group, meaning the network, the information that goes in and out of our operating system. The other one is our security templates, which is the procedure itself, which define how it actually needs to take place. What kind of system can we let in? What kind of systems can we let out in order for the group policies to be able to take effect? And the other one we have is the configuration of database. So for our operating system, I'm going to be discussing about two things. The first one is going to be on Windows Server 2019. So in order for us to add, the admin recommendation for Windows Server 2019 is to ensure that the administrative and system password met password best practices. We're talking about the way in which we had numbers, lowercase and uppercase alphabets, special characters in our password. So basically, by creating that, we're making it as unique as possible. We are reducing the chances of hackers getting into our Windows. Another thing is we can configure account lockout group policy according to account lockout best practice. So basically, for account lockouts, so it's not all accounts that we use it. So accounts that are not in users are prefer to be locked out to keep attackers from being able to get into it, which also bring me back to what we have by disabling guest account. So all accounts that are not being in use, as we tend to want to use it, are meant to be locked out or disabled. By us doing that, we're able to reduce the chances of attackers getting into the system and trying to corrupt or get information that personal information that can be useful for them. So another thing is that we do not allow everyone permission to apply for anonymous user. So these only the people that you trusted can use your computer and apply for the anonymous user, which is the guest account. Not everybody can do that, because once you start to allow everybody to do that, then the likelihood of your accounts being secured is being jeopardized, meaning that people attackers that can start attacking your system as much as they want to. So the other one, we do not allow anonymous enumeration of SAM accounts and shares, disable anonymous SID/name translation, promptly disable or delete unused user account. So basically what this particular recommendation is telling us is that less is best. The lesser information you have, how therefore attackers to be able to use on you, the better it is for your security. So it will be hard for the security breach to happen, meaning that focus on what you need to do and less on what is not needed. Okay, so for security, for Microsoft Windows. The next one I'll be talking about for operating system. I mean, for operating system, the next one I'll be talking about is Ubuntu Server, and for the admin recommendation, we have to keep in mind that the system are up to date, which is how we update our system for everyday uses. Make sure that we are in term with what is actually going on by the year, by the month, so we can be able to update the system. We can be able to know what the hackers are doing and what are being used to implement to reduce attacking from occurring on in our system. And we also have to ensure that user accounts are on lockdown, meaning any account that is not being used should be locked down to prevent it, to make it easier for us. We also have to make sure that all accounts are password protected. Like I mentioned, make your password as unique as possible to keep everything secure. We have to make sure that user account is kept to the minimum. So the lesser people you have using a particular operating system, the better it is. And we also have to implement IP tables to control the traffic network going in and out of the system. So basically, this is where we get to use the group policy, we get to use the security policies together to be able to figure out what goes into this Ubuntu secure server and what goes out of it. So just to regulate it and to make it to keep us from getting attacked. Oh yeah, that now brings us to our firewalls discussion. By definition, what is firewalls? Firewalls are anything, either hardware, software, or combination of both that can filter the transmission of packets of digital information as they pass through any interface between network. So this is where we are able to filter out information that comes in and out of the system. And this particular firewalls has a lot of misconception, especially for people like people that are not into IT. Whenever they hear the word firewall, the first thing that jumped into their mind is that they believe that firewalls are supposed to be used for the intent of slowing down movement of dangerous elements like fire from one location to another. Whereas in actual sense, firewalls is designed to permit unauthorized traffic to pass through while blocking an unauthorized traffic. So basically, it just helps to narrow down what needs to pass, what type of traffic networks need to go into the system and what needs to be rejected. Another misconception that we do have is that people believe that once you install Firewalk, everything will start to function immediately. But we keep forgetting that Firewalk, like every other system, need constant maintenance and updating to keep up with latest security threats. So the more updates we have, the more maintenance we do in it, the better it is to be more secured. And there are basic security functions of firewalls to look into. And for this time around, I'll be discussing three of it. The first one I'll be discussing about is the packet filtering, which is used to determine the type of packet information to allow into the system based on security rules. And this particular packet filtering is used for small networks. So the if it's used for bigger network, more things are let in then to be very difficult and hard to monitor. And another thing about this particular packet filtering is that it cannot prevent all attacks, especially if the attacks follow security rules. So, meaning that the hackers were able to mimic the security procedure that is used or built by for the firewalls. If they're able to mimic that, packet filtering itself will not be good enough. It will still be very, very hard. So another one I've been looking into is the application proxy. So this is what provide network service to users while shielding the host network. So basically, what it means that you're able to still use the network server as you've been using, but it will prevent the main modem monitor, the host computer, from getting affected, where all the information is stored from getting affected. So this process is actually done by breaking the IP flow through limiting traffic types. So basically, the lesser the criteria we have for our traffic types, the harder it is for people for hackers to be able to. So the harder it is for unwanted assets to be able to get into the system. So basically, application proxy is mostly used for the larger kind of network, because it's more larger, they are much more concise. They're able to speak specifically to the type of network or the type of thing that is being built for. So this are actually another thing I like about application proxy is that it offers best internet experience in terms of network performance. It's very, 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 very fast, which I like about it. So the third one we'll be discussing today is going to be on stateful inspection. So this particular one is also roughly in the same dynamic as the packet filtering. It examines traffic stream from one end to another, and it is said to be more secured than the packet filtering firewalls. The main reason why it is more secure is the fact that it does examine the traffic stream from one end use to another. So the ones that are not is able to return it back or alert alert everybody, alert the other system to let them know that hacking is about to happen or an attack is about to happen on the operating system. And for the admin recommendation for firewalls in general is that we have to keep our keep your firewall operating system updated. Configure a strong and non-default firewall password, meaning that don't make your password much more unique and don't make it easier to access. Configuring suitable remote management access, hardening the rule base, and doing a regular rule housekeeping. That's when you start to do auditing. Make sure that is done maybe every 3 months to a year. Audit it, look for trends of attack, try to see how you can prevent the trends of attack so that the next time things like that will not happen again. Then for firewalls, we'll be discussing two type of firewalls. So we are going to be talking about the Windows firewalls, and the other one that you'll see next is going to be the IP tables firewalls. So how do we harden the Windows firewalls? Like I've mentioned before, we are to use strong password. We are also to always update the system. We're supposed to always monitor the log in and out of the system. We're also supposed to make sure that services are configured to run on demand, meaning that it is when we actually need it that is supposed to be running. If it's not needed, like I mentioned before, we're supposed to shut it down until the time we're going to need it. Then having a remote asset configuration will allow user with proper credential to connect to Windows servers from one system to another. I believe this is talking about the VPN. It is only credential users that are able to get into the VPN, and these are things that companies use to be able to work. So they use a VPN to access their data, to access everything outside of work. So, and why having the normal computer access to do everything else, the VPN is what contains all their useful data. So it is much more controlled than any other of the network. So another thing is blocking everything by default while allowing necessary points into the server. We also reduce attackers. Like I mentioned, well, if we are able to block everything by default, meaning makes everything default, so which is only when you need it that you're able to access it, it gives less room for hackers to be able to attack the Windows system. Like I mentioned before, more is less is more. All right. So the next thing we need to talk about is the Adney recommendation for IP tables. So basically, IP tables is a software solution that is available in most Linux computer with kernel version 204 or newer. The IP tables program is a front end which can be called from the command line to auto filter tables in the kernel. The the real firewall is actually in the kernel itself. Then another thing is that the IP table, the kernel in the IP tables is where all network packets are filtered. Okay, so let's see. So adding recommendation for IP tables. So the first one I just told you about is just a little bit about what IP tables do and how they operate. Now we are looking at how we can actually make it better, make it more functionable, make it much more secured. Another thing we can do is that we need to keep the system up to date. We also have to create a simple, strong password, looking at the IP source to identify trends by auditing, by monitoring. So once we are able to identify the threats using trends, using the keywords that the attacker uses, the hackers use to be able to get into the system, we can be able to work on it, make it better, and actually, so the next time things like that to work, we already have solutions for it, we already have recommendation for it, we already know how we're going to do what we can access to make everything function in a rightful manner. Then another thing, and last must not be least, is the filtering packet based on security rules. So the rules and guidelines that are created to make things easier for us. So, and they are created based on everything that has been going on, based on the trends that they've seen in hackers and things like that. So by following the rules, we're able to reduce how attackers are able to get into the system, and that will bring us back to the to updating of system and making sure that the systems are up to date. So it's kind of like an ongoing thing, and it's a cycle that has to be done for everything to be better. And these are my resources. Yeah, so these are my resources. These are what I use to get all the information I have. And thank you everybody for listening to my lectures. I hope you like it. And for any more for more questions about it, you can always put it underneath, like put a comment, and I will be answering it as soon as possible. Thank you.